Welcome to the Scalable Real Estate Investing Podcast, where we discuss the most scalable strategies, tools, and approaches to successfully invest in real estate. Learn how to make the most impact of your time, automate your real estate investing business, find off-market deals with minimum time invested, and leverage your capital to create as many income streams as possible so that you can achieve true financial independence. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Mason Clement. Hi everyone, Mason Clement here. Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to ask you one question. Are you sick of the wild swings in the stock market and ready to try something different? Did you know that investing in stocks actually put you at the very bottom of a company's capital structure, meaning that there's practically 0% chance that you're going to get any of your money back in the event that the company files bankruptcy? That basically you're putting yourself in the riskiest position for a questionable return. Personally, I hate the unpredictability and just waking up and having half of my investment gone when I didn't do anything wrong. So what a lot of people don't know is that you can actually make higher returns on a consistent basis by investing in the opposite end of the capital structure, which is actually the safest place to be, which is on the debt side in a first lien position. And you can do that by investing in real estate, and specifically investing with my company in notes that are backed by the land that we purchase. So if you're ready to diversify your income stream, go ahead and go over to scalablerei.com and click on invest in the top right corner. There you're going to find a form that you can fill out to determine if you're eligible to invest with my company, Celion Capital, and we'll be reaching out to you to schedule an introductory call and speak more from there. So thanks a lot, and let's jump into the episode.
Hi, Scalable Investors. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Scalable Real Estate Investing. I'm your host, Mason Clement, and today we have with us Bryan Underwood, who is the founder and CEO of Responsible Real Estate, which is a company that focuses on doing some ground-up development, residential properties, but he has a lot of experience also in self-storage, really over 17 years of experience to unpack here. So without stealing his thunder, let's just jump into things. Bryan, how you doing?
Very well, Mason. Very well. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here and just kind of geek out on real estate because that's what I do best.
Perfect. So yeah, everyone's got their own journey. I like to understand people's backstory. Why don't you just jump into that? Like what brought you up to today?
How much time do we have? I'm kidding.
Oh, well,
no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
The short version.
Yeah, the short version. There's always the short version, long version. But so look, my family is in real estate. Okay, so not my mom, not my dad, my grandfather, uncles. Okay, so I grew up kind of seeing what real estate can do, the type of benefits that it can provide. It wasn't until I was about 22, 23 that I started to get really curious about real estate. Okay, and so one of the things that I was asking myself was like, how do you put value on a piece of property or a building? Like, how does someone even make an offer on that? Like, what are the economics? Like, what are the fundamentals behind that? Right. And so I started reading books. I got my salesperson license. Acquaintance of mine who I looked up to, who was a mentor for a period of time, was doing his very first real estate deal in like 04, 05. And I just went to him and I was like, I have this interest in real estate. What are you doing? What do you need? Right? Can I help? Right? So I ended up just kind of like working for this guy, learning real estate. We're kind of learning together, but this guy was much older in age, seasoned, respected business person. And so what I did is I ended up just started looking for deals. I was green. I didn't know anything about real estate, but I was reading. I kind of just understood what like a back of the napkin pro forma was, right? And so I found a piece of property in Santee, California. That's a submarket in San Diego, East County, San Diego, 16,000 square feet, owned by the YMCA. And they wanted $250,000 for it. And I'm like, okay, this is a good area. It's a lot of single family homes. It was just zoned, rezoned to industrial. And so I got with my mentor. I said, what can we do with this piece of property? He's like, we could build an industrial like spec building here, like 7,500 square feet. So we're kind of ping ponging back and forth. And I'm like, he's like, well, let's just make an offer for 150,000. So we made an offer and they accepted it. So then I was like, okay, well, how do I buy in? I don't have any money. So I went to a family member, put together a business plan. And I said, here's this opportunity. I have a mentor. I need $50,000. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how you get your money back. And they gave it to me. And so I bought into this deal. And about 6 months later, we sold it for $425,000. And so I gave the family member their money back. I gave them interest. I had about $70,000 in the bank. And then I was like, how do I do that again? I mean, I was instantly hooked, That's kind of my entry into real estate.
Okay. That's phenomenal. That's like your first deal, right? A 6-figure deal?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean, well, we bought it for 150, sold it for 425. I mean, like I borrowed the money, had to pay it back, so I didn't make 6 figures. But yeah, like there was 6 figures my way. Yeah, pretty neat. Now, also, I don't know what market you're in. Like Southern California, real estate is very expensive. So, like I've got family members in North Carolina, and they could buy acres, for millions of dollars, and I'm buying like 14,000 square feet for $3 million, right? It all depends on what you can do with it, right? It's all relative, but real estate in San Diego is very expensive.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I was reading through your bio and noticed that you had experience working with Castor properties and even storage. So why don't you just jump into that a little bit? Like, what was your experience like? How long did you work with them, and what did you do for them?
Yeah, so that is my family business. So after this, this kind of learning on the job, reading books, borrowing money, buying land, selling, repaying, making a profit. Again, I was hooked. So I went to the family business. My uncle still runs it today. And I said, I want a job. And now he could have been testing me, or I don't know, but he said no. He said no. I said, okay, well, maybe I'm not explaining myself right. I love this stuff. This is a family business. I want to be in acquisitions. I want to learn. I want to contribute. Like, I want to learn everything there is to know about this. And so what I ended up doing for him was I kind of got my foot in the door on a temporary basis. I said, if I'm wasting Tyler Exter, who was my boss, if I'm wasting his time after 6 months, you ask him. If he says yes, I'll leave. Otherwise, I want a job in acquisitions because, again, I want to learn and I love what I'm doing. And so when I first got in there, I actually put together a business plan for storage condos. This was like a product in 05, 06, 07 was a pretty popular thing. I think they're back around now, but there's, Great Recession took them all out. So I got in, started doing a business plan for storage condos. My mentor today, who's my boss, Tyler Exter, and the Great Recession hit. I got to spend a lot of time with Tyler in his room, learning financial underwriting, creating my own financial models. We would pick out articles and talk about what ifs and opportunities. This guy was like, it still is extremely savvy in finding deals, underwriting deals, structuring contracts. And I got to learn from him for 10 years. So I spent from 2007 to 2017. It's really where I honed my skills in real estate. Had great support around me, but I learned how to source deals. I learned how to negotiate deals. I learned how to write contracts, right? I learned how to manage all of our escrow commitments. I learned about property due diligence, hiring consultants to go do phase ones and geotechnical. Like, what do those actually mean? What are those reports for, and how are they used in the development process, right? I learned how to engage with the local municipalities and like confirm all my research that you do on the front end of zoning and what can I possibly build here. In California, a lot of stuff is not done by right. So by right just means no one can say no to your project. All you have to do is comply with like the building code, whether you're using universal or in California is the California building code. That's a by right project. Most projects in California are discretionary, which means you have to go and sort of in front of a body of some sort. That could be a local planning commission. That could be a neighborhood planning group. That could be city council. You have to pitch them on why this is good for the city, and they get to vote yes or no. Right? So that's discretionary. Most projects in California are discretionary. So I got to get in front of those bodies and entitle self-storage facilities. Over that 10-year period, I was blessed to spend $60 million buying land, secured entitlements for 1.5 million square feet of self-storage. And it was phenomenal, man. I mean, that's where I honed all my skills and, really got to wear a bunch of different hats because a lot of people specialize. I specialize in finding deals, like sourcing deals. I specialize in property due diligence. I specialize in, fill in the blank, where we were small enough shop where I had to play all those roles. So really kind of honed my skills for what I'm doing today, which is, I'm a home builder. I'm a developer. I'm not a contractor, but I know how to put all the pieces together from soup to nuts and how to put these deals together.
Okay. And when you're going through the entitlement process, were you getting a lot of pushback on doing that?
Yeah. All development to some degree usually has pushback. And I've learned that now that I'm building homes, right? People say, well, they're NIMBYs, not in my backyard, right? I don't want all the traffic. There's always a reason why they don't want it. Self-storage was a little bit different because often you could pitch it in a way because it literally is the lowest traffic generator of like any product that you can build in the market. So there's like SANDAG in San Diego. It's the San Diego Association of Governments. They basically track like vehicle trips per product and square footages, and storage is literally the lowest. So you had a good avenue with the residents and people around you saying, look, like this literally creates no traffic compared to any other product. But the cities would often give you pushback because they wouldn't explicitly say this, because I don't think they can. But if you needed their permission, they often didn't want self-storage because it provided no sales tax and no employment base. Okay, so I'm taking up, and I'm going to put my, my senior planner hat on at, or planning director hat on at a city. We've got precious industrial land and only so much of it. And I could put 100,000 square foot industrial building there that gives us tremendous tax base. And in that 100,000 square foot warehouse, it's going to employ thousands of people, right? Thousands of jobs. Okay, now I'm a self-storage guy. I come in, I'm going to build a 100,000 square foot self-storage facility. I'm going to give you no tax base, and I've got 3 employees. So they're just like, they wouldn't explicitly say that, but that was the battle we were always up against, right? And so I had to find creative ways to say you're wrong, gently, of course. You never say you're wrong, but these are all the different segments and end users of self-storage. And this is why maybe you're thinking about this the wrong way, right? And I've even compared and contrast, like what we would create in terms of jobs and ancillary jobs related to self-storage and the use of small business. I mean, I've gotten really creative. I'll put it that way.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that's definitely one of the things I've heard as well about self-storage. So, is that part of the reason that you transitioned from self-storage to residential? Is just like an easier sale when you're going through the entitlement process, or what made you make that change?
No, it's a good question, but no, didn't actually weigh into the decision making whatsoever. Very, very like personal decision on my end. So, I was working for the family business. On paper is about, kind of the best job, most secure job you can have. Like, I made a great paycheck. My wealth, albeit wasn't growing as fast as I wanted it to, but I would kind of always have a job. Like, I secured my spot after 10 years. But I was kind of like dying inside because like, I'm always looking for growth opportunities, both personally, professionally, and that particular job. And this is a good thing, by the way, the family is very focused on what they do. They said, we want to build the best 2 deals that we find every single year. Well, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. But here's someone who's young that wants to keep learning, keep growing, keep stretching and building his own wealth. And you're limiting me to the best 2 deals every single year. You just take the 10,000 hour rule. I could do that in my sleep, after like 7-8 years of doing this. Like, I literally could find 2 deals, like not going to the office. I didn't have to like people would just call me. Oh, I got an off market deal. Okay, well, I could sniff it out pretty well, right? So I would engage with the family and sort of ask, like, what can I do on top of what I'm already doing to help this cause? And the response was always, Bryan, keep your head down. You'll be fine in 20 years. And doesn't really fit my personality. And so in about 2015 is when I realized, I had to be okay with being offered the CEO role at our $2 billion family business. And I had to be okay saying no to that. And once I got to the point that I was okay saying no to that, it was pretty easy for me. Like, what's next? Like, what am I going to do? And so I said, okay, I'm in a position right now that has like the most security in the world, but with no potential. So I'll forfeit that for a lot of risk, but unlimited potential. So I started thinking about a new business and what I wanted to do. And one thing that's really cool about real estate is it's so complex, it's so vast, you can make money a lot of different ways. And so when I thought about, it just kind of made sense, I'd leave and I'd start a self-storage company because I've been doing it for 10 years and like, that's my network. But I was like, life's short. I don't want to compete with my family. Like, that's just silly. So why don't I figure out like a different product to build? And so I just started meeting with all my relationships in San Diego. Really, the housing crisis, which we still have, became really apparent to me after meeting with people. And I'm thinking to myself, gosh, how come we're not building more of this stuff, right? And I know why. It's the regulation, the hurdles, the challenge, and all that sort of stuff. But that's also where you can create tremendous value. And so that's where we're focused now, is home building. So I left the family business in 2017 to start Responsible Real Estate. And we've been focused on, I've done a couple syndications. I've done a ground up build to rent townhome community that we're getting ready to sell. And I have 2 very large multifamily projects in the work, and happy to kind of jump into any one of those that you'd like to.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, going from your website, it seemed like sometimes you'll do some value add projects and sometimes it's a ground up development. So how do you determine like what the best path is?
Yeah, so opportunity, one. I'm very much focused. So we could kind of have like 2 brands, and it's evolving, right? Like I'm growing and I'm learning to scale myself. And so when I first started out on the home building side, I reached out to a colleague of mine that I met in grad school when we got a master's in real estate. And I said, what are you doing? And would you like to go build some homes? And he's like, heck yeah, let's go build some homes. And so I partnered with him on our Santee project, and we raised $1.5 million to build these 10 build to rent townhomes. We have 9 of 10 leased up, and we're under contract to sell that in bulk, like as a 10-unit investment property. Through that project, we had worked with a project manager, and we knew this firm, and we have a relationship with them, and we're all tied to USD, called Urban Housing Partners. Urban Housing Partners is like synonymous with like urban infill, like, anywhere from podium to type 1 residential towers, like in downtown San Diego. They've been focused there for the last 25 years. These guys are like extremely smart. They're really good at what they do. And so what we realized through the townhome project is Sean and I would like to build larger projects. And while we can probably venture off and try to do that ourselves, we are very much aligned with the Urban Housing Partners, the people, the vision, and like just what makes us tick. Like we all get along and we're all trying to do the same things. And so in this organic relationship, we decided, you know what, why don't we all team up, all 5 of us, let's team up, use our skill sets. Let's go for the first time, offer investment opportunities to the public, and let's go build much larger projects. Ones that you guys usually build for other people, let's now build for ourselves. And so that brand is called Urban Housing Partners. And so Sean and I became partners with them in urban housing. We have an 89-unit market rate apartment project in North Park, and we have a 240 unit in National City. That's a little bit further down the road. And so when I look at that, that's very much the focus, because that's all, there's a lot of opportunity there. But we got into the value add space for a very specific reason. And this is going to get really technical, so I'm sorry if I lose some of your listeners, but it has to do with short-term rentals. So in the city of San Diego, they've passed an ordinance that restricts short-term rentals. Okay. Right now, there's 12,000 that are operating in the city. They're going to reduce it to 6,000. So they're literally taking half of the supply, and like it's just gone because they're implementing a licensing system. Okay. So what we can do as part of our new builds, our brand new projects, like North Park as an example, is we can build into that product type a short-term rental product called visitor accommodation. Okay. So in order for us to learn this space and learn short-term rentals and how they operate, we bought a 20-unit value add apartment complex in Bay Park that we are undergoing a value add and changing all of those 20 units to short-term rentals to learn this product, engage with property managers, and just become really, really, really good at it. So we can be better at building with our ground up facility. So that's where the value add came from. And that's the strategy there. It very much ties into what we're doing on the bigger scale.
All right, that's very interesting. So kind of conversions there. I was actually speaking with a person that they manage, I forget how many, but they kind of manage and clean. They're kind of like the cleaning company. I guess they also double as a manager of a bunch of Airbnb properties. And I realized that recently Airbnb did this overhaul on their layout of the website, and a lot of properties aren't tagged correctly anymore. So, and obviously that according to him, it was like driving 80% of most of his clients' traffic. And so they saw, like 50% reduction across the board in all their properties. So you see that as an issue, or what do you think about all that stuff?
Well, so my business partner, Sean, is much more well-versed in the Airbnb, VBRO. We hired a national firm, Vacasa. So yes, it's like any product. You're going to have multiple marketing channels. And so while we get a lot of our bookings from Airbnb or VBRO, probably a third of them come directly from Vacasa website. So I'm not going to have that Airbnb issue or the Vacasa issue. So I just, in kind of everything that we do, we're looking for good partners that we align with, that provide, the level of stay, right? And that we're looking for in terms of like, how do you respond to, crisis situations? Like how are you responding to specific needs? How are they, accessing the units? You know what I mean? Where Vacasa, because they're a national firm, has all the things that we wanted to implement on the technology side. But then they also have, their own great website that drives traffic themselves without having Airbnb and VBRO as like lead generators. I haven't heard anything to what you're speaking of related to Airbnb and being tagged and less traffic. I haven't heard anything about that, but fascinating. And if it's true, that is a bummer for them.
Yeah, no one really seems to be talking about it much, but it seems like it kind of pokes a hole in a lot at the Airbnb strategy, but I'm sure it'll come back. It's just like fixing their algorithm and stuff. But unless they don't want it to be fixed because they really want to focus on those experiential cave stays and living in potatoes and stuff like that you see on the commercial.
I don't know. I'm not. Yeah, that's a little out there, but I don't know.
Yeah.
We've got. I just focus on great asset, great location. I'm huge on everything we do. There's a lot of contingency planning. So, our home run, our plan A is to convert short-term rental, these 20 units in Bay Park. If you're coming to San Diego, like with your family, there's a value proposition there because you got like full kitchens, you got beds, you got place to park, but it's literally in the area that you'd want to go stay in San Diego. It's trolley connected. You can go up to UTC, you can go to downtown San Diego, go to a ball game, Comic-Con. Like location is irreplaceable. And so just, it's the classic like location, right? So even though we've got sort of like this out of box strategy, right? It's still like a terrific asset, and push come to shove. Like if we had to just go lease that whole building up on like your typical 12-month apartment rentals, like we still hit a home run. Like it's still an awesome product. It still makes a lot of money. So I like, that was one of the reasons, or one of the ways we got comfortable with that product, was saying this underwrites as a value add apartment complex. Okay. Which we could do that. Like it makes money. Everybody's happy. Like this makes sense. It makes a lot more sense if we can operate as short-term rentals, because the cash flow is staggering high, which is why people are going into that business, right? But like I would never have acquired that building if it didn't underwrite as a value add apartment complex. That's always our, that's always our contingency plan.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good point. That makes a lot of sense. So back to development. So before we started recording, I mentioned that I primarily focus on land, and I have a lot that I think I might just make more money on it if I just go vertical and build a home. But I'm honestly afraid of some of the pitfalls that I may not be aware of. So what do you think are some of the biggest pitfalls that someone should know of before starting?
So, I mean, I always try to do this when I'm in escrow, right? So I don't know what phase that you're particularly on that piece of land, but it doesn't take away from the value that it takes for property like due diligence in general, right? So I got really good at doing and reviewing all these reports myself. Some people rely on an attorney to review them and give them feedback. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way, but like if you don't understand how to read a title report, or you don't understand like the aspects of a geotechnical like survey, or some underground borings and like what that means to like the structure, like get a professional to help you. But at the very least, if I'm looking at a piece of land, I'm doing two things. I'm doing all my property due diligence, which I'll unpack in a second, but I'm going through and looking at like, what's the general plan for the city or the county I'm in? I'm looking at the zoning, and I'm looking at any like community plan or overlay that might further restrict what the zone or the general plan allows. So the best that you can, what you're trying to do is come up with a product that fits the vision of the city, but that's also financially viable, right? Like I can raise money, I can build this, and I can make some money. Sometimes those two don't align, but often they do. You just got to kind of figure that out. If they don't align, you might have a compelling reason to go change that zone, and you can work through that with the process. So I'm doing that. So I'm investigating, again, general plan, zoning, community plans, and any overlays. All of those things can tell you what you can and can't do with that piece of property. On the other side of the coin, I'm going through property due diligence. Okay, so if it's just vacant land, I'm getting an ALTA survey. So an ALTA survey is furthering your title report. It's taking all of the exceptions that are in your title report. So exceptions in a title report are recorded documents that affect the ownership of the land. That could be an easement. That could be, it could be like minerals. It literally could have a train track running right through your property that you can never get rid of. So a title report is like number one. Read the title report, go through the exceptions, pay for an ALTA survey. So someone physically goes out there and does all the boundaries. Then they map all of those easements. And then you can sit back and say, okay, can I get rid of any of these easements? Or are they literally like right through my building that I want to build and I can't ever get rid of it? So like it's extremely important. Okay. A phase one in California, it's a very good thing. I'm sure it's other places as well. Phase one basically tracks any environmental contamination. So the two big ones are gas stations and like cleaners, right? So cleaners back in the day used to dump all their stuff down their toilets, and then it went into the sewer drain, and then it leaked into the soil, might be in the groundwater. Well, that's very problematic. And so a phase one is going to bring all of that up. The phase one is the research component. You might need, like the recommendation might need a phase two, which is exploratory, borings, what chemicals are actually in the ground, remediation. Again, this is like very complicated stuff. So you need professionals to help you. I've just done enough of it to like kind of know what I'm doing a little bit, So phase one is extremely important. If you're going to be building anything, it's good to like get a geotechnical survey. So different than the phase one borings, these are literally borings that are going to go into the earth, pull it up, and it's going to tell you the makeup of the soil. And it's going to be in conjunction with what you plan to build. And it's going to make recommendations to the structural engineer on what they need to do to that soil to get it ready to hold that building. Okay, so that, again, very complicated stuff, but like extremely important. What if you're building on a bunch of sand and you have to do like, these pile drills, like, every 2 feet? That could literally can cost you $250,000. Well, you didn't plan on that, So again, you need to know like the soil that you're building on. There's probably a whole host of other things, but those are like the initial stuff that like come to mind when it comes to land.
Okay. So it sounds like just for like a simple house, I want to build like a 4-bed, 3-bath, or a 3-2. The first thing I think of is go to a general contractor who's already done all this, and maybe they'll be able to help me hold my hand through the process. But otherwise, all the stuff you explained, maybe a civil engineer would be the person to go to.
Yeah, you're going to need a civil engineer. You're going to need an architect, for sure. That's kind of like, those are like your first two consultants that you're going to hire. And the civil engineer is going to say, I've never built just a house, so I apologize, but like, you still need to make sure that like the soil's okay. Like you could put like slab on grade or whatever type of foundation work you're going to be doing, but your contractor, your civil engineer should be able to guide you, like if they need any additional information. They're going to do bulk of the work. Oftentimes you hire the architect, he's going to have every other design consultant that's needed as like part of his package. Like he kind of works directly with them. And your contractor should have a pretty good idea on pricing. There's different contracts that are available to you as you engage a contractor. You can look at, like, in California, I use like the AIA forms. I'm not sure if that's nationwide or not, but there's the kind of like standard forms like you would use like in a contract. There's standard forms that you can use for contractor builder relationships. I do think it's wise to engage a contractor, but I think you need a good attorney to help you with that contract as you go through it, to make sure that, again, you're doing what you say you're going to do. They're doing what they say they're going to do. One thing that I would advise and certainly caution is that you make sure you've got a great architect, a great civil engineer, and a great set of construction plans, because that's going to limit your change orders by the contractor. It's a competing relationship. You're trying to build this for the lowest possible money, and your contractor is trying to build it for more money. So it's kind of a bastard relationship, and if you ask me. But what they're going to try to do is stick you with change orders. They're just going to say, "Oh, well, your plans didn't show that, and so now we've got to do X, Y, and Z to solve that problem." And you want to be able to always point back to your plans and say, "Nope, you bid it, and it's right here in my plans. Therefore, it's in your price." You got to be able to like have compelling reason to say, "No, this is on you," and they're going to constantly say, "No, this is on you." So just be prepared for that.
Okay. It also seems like it would be good to probably get some word of mouth referrals and get quotes from like at least 3 different contractors and just understand that way as well. Like
I'm like, I want everyone, like all the deals that I put together, I want people to be aligned in what we're doing. Okay. So I'm just like, this is just Underwood talking. You take it for whatever it is. Like, I want to be aligned. So if you're engaging a contractor to build the house, well, it's very straightforward. You might be able to find a good one, resources, references, go look at the stuff they've done before. It might be a great relationship. Like, they may be able to do it, but I would prefer that they say, "Oh, I see this opportunity. Why don't I not only build it for you? Why don't I actually like invest in the deal alongside you?" And you may not like that relationship. But I like that relationship, because now they're incentivized to have owner's eyes and make ownership decisions. Now you're making them, but they're looking at it saying, "Oh, do I want to bring this change order in and make a few bucks? Or do I just want to solve this problem because I'm an investor in the deal, and like this is like hurting my profit on the back end?" Like, that's what I want them to be thinking about. I want to like everyone around the table rolling up their sleeves saying, "How do we solve the problem?" I don't want a contract with a contractor and him saying, "You're stuck again. Here you go. Wasn't on your plans. Here you go." And every time he wins and you lose. Like, that's not a good relationship. So I'm trying to get like aligned in what we're doing here. So I would look at like, maybe it's just a single family home. Maybe you could lot split it. Maybe you could build 2. Maybe you could build 2 homes with an accessory dwelling unit. Now you got 4 units. Maybe you can rezone the whole piece of property and do like 4 row homes or 4 townhomes. Again, I don't know the market you're talking about, but like, just get creative. Every place seems to need housing. And so if you can go in with a compelling reason, and within the planning, like if they have the tool set to get your project approved, like give them a reason to approve it. Like, they need to be able to have the tools that are given to them in the code to allow it. But if it's allowed, usually they're going to go that way.
Okay. Yeah, this one actually, it's part of an HOA as well, so it's not ideal. I think I'll have to get approval from them as well for that lot split, but I'll see what happens.
So I mean, it's exciting.
Yeah, it could be interesting. I just don't want it to distract me too much from the core business, so we'll see how it goes. But Why don't we, I just noticed on your website, there's a couple of past offerings. So why don't we talk about those? Like the 3949 Ohio Street in San Diego. Why don't we talk about that one?
So 3949 is the North Park project that I referred to. That is an 89 unit market rate apartment project. And so we were a little creative on the front end. Okay, so we haven't capitalized this deal. We're actually getting ready to revamp that offering to actually start raising capital on this deal. Okay, so what the past offering was, more friends and family, like people I know, and it was kind of short-term debt almost. Okay, so it helped us acquire the property. It also has helped us get to where we are with our architects and design consultants. We're scheduled to submit for plan check in November. So in the city of San Diego, we've assembled best-in-class architect and design team. And to get to a plan set that's good enough to submit, it takes 9 months. Okay, so we have 100% DD is done, 100% schematic is done, and we're on construction drawings scheduled to submit for plan check in November. The plan check is 9 months in the city of San Diego, and so we're looking to break ground right around July, August of next year. That's, again, 89 units. It's called a mid-rise, so it's podium. So you got basically 2 levels of concrete and then 5 of wood frame. And that's with Urban Housing Partners that we're building that project. And so that is a total of a $12.5 million capitalization on the equity. We have raised a 2.3, 2.4 to date. So when we go to market, we're basically looking at raising like another $10 million. That particular deal is going to be a $250,000 minimum. It is going to be a 506C, so it's going to be limited to accredited investors. Just so for the benefit of your listeners, we do both. Obviously the 506B, you're qualifying yourself, and we also have to have a relationship. There's very strict rules around that. This 506C I could talk about because it's limited to accredited investors, and the SEC lets me, market that deal. So yeah, you can learn more about that deal at investwithbryan.com. That's BRYAN. You can find us, but that's a deal that will be coming out to the market. Initially, we're going to take soft commitments, and then when we're ready, we have all the docs set up, then we will actually, start taking the formal commitments on that deal.
Okay. And how long will it take to actually build it after you break ground next summer?
Yeah, it's a 22-month build time. We are working already with our contractor in pre-construction. They're one of the best in class in San Diego. This product is right in their wheelhouse. They're not only good people, they're about as good as it gets. And so we've got like just an extremely competent team to take this thing from, where we are today all the way to finished building. We'll lease it up. And then the idea for that particular deal is actually to hold it for long term. So it takes so long to get these things out of the ground that I'd like to set everything up initially that we get partners that want to hang on to the product for long term.
Okay. And then would you ever like refinance it later to have some liquidity event, or how's that work?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, our number one risk on the development side is the construction loan. Some people might debate me on that. They say, well, you can't control costs, or, what if your contractor takes longer than they said? And all that is risk. I'm not denying that there's not risk there, but we are working with like literally the best of the best. And of course, things can go sideways, but you're talking about people who do this and have done this. They live and breathe this stuff. And like, if I had to place risk that like, I'm not sure if they can complete this project, then I wouldn't hire them, right? So my number one risk is always refinancing my construction loan. We spend a lot of time doing that. We're in interesting times right now. But the thing is about when you look at construction projects, ground up development, it's a long runway, okay? So, I bought this property last year. We're a year in, we're going to be 2.5 in when we break ground, 2 more years to build. You're 4.5 years before I start leasing this thing up. If I worried about what was happening right now today, I would never build a house. I would never build an apartment project, right? Because like how do I make those decisions? Well, you make the decisions by contingency planning, right? So we always put a minimum of 35% equity in all of our deals. Like, yes, I can juice returns if I put less money. But the thing is I want to make sure that and be confident that we can refinance out of our construction loan and permanent financing on that. So that's a liquidity event. That's a point in time that we can, if the capital markets are favorable, we could put a much larger loan on that property, still cash flow, still give great returns, but also return of capital at that point. But the point is what we're trying to do is hold on to these things long term, get out of the construction loan, put permanent financing on it, enjoy the cash flow, enjoy the appreciation of asset, pay down the debt over time. Like that's how you create tremendous wealth.
Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, you kind of answered one of my questions too. Like, how do you really, make those plans so far out in the future? Like, well, what kind of market will I be trying to lease up in 4.5 years?
Yeah, you don't know, right? What I do know is that we are making a return on paper. We stress test like everything, right? But right now on paper, we're making a return with untreated rents 3 years out. Okay, so that's like what stuff is renting for today. If that didn't change at all, our project can get financed today. Now we know those are going to change. Is it 2%? Is it 10% like it has been? I have no idea, right? But the point is that we untrend those because that's actually how the debt market looks at it. They won't give you a construction loan unless you underwrite it that way. But we feel confident, again, we will feel confident about that. Like I have no idea what it looks like 4 years from now, but what I do know today is that we're 110,000 units behind on where we should be in San Diego. Like, literally, we need to build 110,000 units by 2030. Okay, we're barely building 6,000 a year. Like we're so far behind, the demand is so great. It will be there, regardless of what's happening in the world. The demand will be there for these units in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and 5 years. Okay, what we have to be sensitive of is, well, what's our takeout financing going to be? That's like the number one. That's what we have to be sensitive about. I feel very confident about the rates today, 3 years from now. They're not going to go backwards.
Okay, how do you determine the capacity of the market? There's 110,000 and also the 6,000 per month or per year.
Yeah, two ways to answer that. One is, which is probably the most important, is listen to really smart people, follow them, track them, see what they're doing and how they're doing it. But two, you can actually like prove it out yourself. And I didn't do this. Demographers do it. So Sandag, the same group I was talking about earlier in the show, they track basically natural growth in San Diego. Okay, natural growth in San Diego is 27,000 people a year. So if you take people leaving the state, moving into the state, people having kids, people dying, I'm talking about all movement, 27,000 people per year. The average household size in San Diego is 2.7. So we need to be growing by 10,000 units per year just to keep up with natural growth. Right now, we're stretching to get to 6,000 and 7,000 a year. So for the last 20 years, we have not met our natural growth demands for housing. And that's how you can calculate we're behind 110,000 units at this point.
Okay, interesting. Is that data available on like the local, I guess, I don't know, the state or the county or the city websites?
Yeah, if you so for San Diego specifically, it's Sandag, San Diego Association of Governments. You could find, I mean, that's what they do, is they literally plan for the whole county on growth, roadways, water, and they put all the reports together. Like that's their job. So the cities, the local cities, have to rely on that data to then update their general plans. Okay, so if we're gonna have to grow by this much, where are we gonna put the people with water and roads, right? And sewer, right? Like where are we gonna put them all? So they use that data to then process their general plans, which is general plans have a housing element. Housing element spells here's where all the density is going to go. As a developer, I track all that stuff because that's where I can go build.
Huh. Okay. And then in terms of like sourcing the land, are you sending out mailers for SMS campaigns or just going on the MLS? How are you doing that?
So all that stuff is good. Everyone's going to have their own way of sourcing. I'm going to go back to, I mean, there's actually really good ways now that I learned about in a conference. And I have it written in my journal, and I couldn't even spit off the names because I was writing really fast, because there's a lot of young, really smart people out there. In storage days, I would literally like track down owners and make phone calls, and I would snail mail. And that's how I would source off-market deals. And I'd find them. And I put together a lot of really good deals. Today, we're focused on areas, kind of like I was just talking about, focused on areas that the city has already gone through the brain damage of updating their general plans and allow certain densities in certain areas. We're focused right there. Honestly, like I can't bring on another deal right now. Like we've got a pipeline. Like I could find more deals. I could find a ton of deals. Like my particular team is missing the capital equation. It's not a matter of finding deals. Like I could find a deal tomorrow. Like we're all deal junkies and we know how to hunt. Like we can go find a deal. Like I'm executing the deals that we have in our pipeline right now. We've got a couple more, but like my issue isn't finding deals. Like to help your listeners out, snail mail is great, but you got to understand like your local planning, the local ordinances. You got to understand where you're hunting and what you can, and like what is the city going to allow you to put there. Like that's going to help you focus on like what areas should I even be like cold calling? What areas should I be sending letters to? Right? Like all that stuff.
Okay. Yeah, at least sourcing for potential development land, it seems like it'd be a lot more selective, and you can't just blast out entire counties or something like that.
No, yeah, it's a waste of time. You got to be very strategic. The old school way, which is still very much a good option, is like work with your local title company. You know what I mean? Like if you don't have access to stuff, like they'll give you access to like public records, and you can literally give them like boundaries, and say, I want like ownership information for all this stuff. It could be in an LLC. Well, there's good skip tracing tools out there that'll like help you figure out like who's the true owner of that LLC. What's their email? What's their phone number? Where's their actual home? You'd rather send a letter to their home, handwritten, than some obscure LLC PO box that they probably won't read. I'm just kind of go through, like you put yourselves in their shoes. Like, what would you be responding to? That's kind of the best way to do it.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Oh, I think we've covered most of my questions here. Is there anything else that you wanted to hit on?
Man, we covered a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So nothing else. So if someone wants to learn more about, your company and how they maybe could invest with you on a future deal, how would they do that?
Yeah. Investwithbryan.com. Invest with Bryan with a Y. Investwithbryan.com. Look forward to connecting.
All right, perfect. Well, thanks a lot for getting on the show. I definitely learned a lot. Hope our listeners learned a lot as well.
Thanks, Mason. Yeah, appreciate your time.
All right, that's another episode of Scalable Real Estate Investing. Thank you for tuning in. Please be sure to leave a review and subscribe on whatever channel you're using to listen or watch these episodes. And also be sure to go to scalablerealestateinvesting.com, scroll to the bottom, and fill out the form to sign up for our email. And you could also reach me directly at mason@scalablerealestateinvesting.com. That's MASON @scalablerealestateinvesting.com. If you'd like to get in touch with me to either partner on deals or even be considered to do your own episode on this podcast. Thanks again, and have a great day.